the gate for the sheep. All who came before me are thieves and bandits, but the sheep did not listen to them. I am the gate. Whoever enters by me will be saved, and will come in and go out and find pasture. The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I came that they may have life and have it abundantly. The gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Christ.
In the name of God, our Creator, Redeemer, and Sustainer. Amen. On Friday, our hall next door was full of people. And we hosted what is called a TED Talk. It was fun to kind of talk with people about hosting the TED event here in Portsmouth. And people said, is he an evangelist that's coming to talk? And for those of you who know what TED Talks are, it's an acronym. It's not a guy. Technology, education, and design. And I was on the committee that was part of the organization of that, and we happened to be the venue that hosted it. It was an amazing day. But in the process of planning and organizing, I realized something, and I learned it in a very stark way, a lesson that was that rocked me a little bit. Because we were having the TED Talk here, and I was in a committee, and one of the people in the committee, very thoughtful person, very young, vibrant, thoughtful, said, well, what are we going to call it, the venue? And they all looked at me, and I said, St. John's Church? And they said, well, it's not in the church. And I said, okay, St. John's Hall. And they started to talk about it, and they said, well, can't we call it like the Hall on Chapel Street? And then what I realized was how scary church is to so many people. This was not a person that was anti-church. Because there's plenty of people in Christianity today, especially in this country, that will say that the liberal media is attacking the church. This is not what was going on. It was legitimate fear. It was the reality that the idea that if we called it a church where the TED Talks were being held, people wouldn't come and people wouldn't feel welcome. That's what they were saying. And it was rocking to the core for me. Because what do I say every Sunday? All are welcome. Yet the reality is, for so many people, that the church is not a welcoming place. It is not something where they say, sure, all are welcome. I mean, if I had a nickel for every time somebody said, if I walked into church, I get struck by lightning. I mean, we all say that in jest. I guarantee you, if God saw fit or that the community saw fit to ordain me a priest, you all are set. Because nobody's getting struck by lightning. But this reality struck me. And I went, wow. And we look at today's gospel, and it is the story of the Good Shepherd, is amazing. And it is this reminder that Christ is the gate. We are not the gate. Christ is the gate. And yet, so we don't have to do this sorting business that we're so fond of doing. Who's in and who's out. The great freedom is that we can fling those doors open, we can go out into the world and be a part of it. What was amazing to me is that if you're familiar with TED Talks, and if you're not, Google it, because it is one of the great gifts of the internet. There are good aspects to the internet, and TED is one of them. Their motto is ideas worth sharing and spreading. Wasn't that one taken? Isn't that the gospel? Isn't that what Jesus was all about? And yet, the tragedy is that we gave it away. We gave away the movement of sharing ideas worth sharing and spreading. We gave that away for an institution that we instead protect and defend. That's a bummer. A big bummer. And our bishop is very onto this and saying we need to recover and reclaim the movement of being an idea we're sharing and spreading versus being an institution that we will die defending. It's a lot freer because we hear this gospel and it goes on, and Jesus talks about being the shepherd, and he talks about this reality that you do not have to be the gate. I got that. Take that one off your list. And then Jesus says something crazy. It's my favorite verse in John's gospel, John 10:10. It's one of the few ones I can quote chapter, verse, and tell you the right answer. So why did Jesus come in the first place? The way that a lot of people of faith and a lot of Christians in particular behave is that Jesus came to make us miserable in this life so that we may endure to the end and finally get something good. I wish that wasn't true. But Jesus doesn't say that. Jesus says, I came that you may have life, and life abundantly. Now. Not after you die, now. One of my favorite encounters is that in the summer, is we'll be walking along the beach on Sunday afternoon, or I'll be walking along the beach, and I see a parishioner, and they see me. Well, as you all know, our attendance goes down in the summer. A little. And what I love is I'll be walking along, smiling, enjoying the day, and I see a parishioner, and they look at me and go. And I smile, and I go, hey, how you doing? They go, good. I'm sorry I wasn't in church. And I've been coached by people that love me that my response to that is not always nice. I don't want to be nice. I want to be kind. I want to be helpful. I don't want to be nice. The difference between nice and kind for me is honesty. And so I tend to be a little flippant, as you know, and I look at them, I was like, oh, I don't care. I care about them. But as long as we keep church as a club that you better go or else, rather than a community that holds people up in the midst of life and actually gives you something of an idea we're sharing and spreading, I mean, it's just ridiculous. As I was looking at the TED event, I realized that we could use some of that energy to kind of and deconstruct the church because our marketing stinks. Come here, so we're going to tell you how bad you are, and we're going to give you some magic things that get you into something, but it's really not going to do anything for your day-to-day life. I know I'm being a little harsh, but that's how it gets translated to people that aren't a part of the community. And so today, we gather. Today, we celebrate Mother's Day. We have 17 13-year-olds in this church today that are going through Right 13. We're doing something right if 13-year-olds are here. I believe that with my whole heart because they are truth tellers. And how do I say this? They don't, you can't lie to them. Their meter, fill in the blank beforehand, is very acute and sensitive. You can't tell them lies. They get the truth. And so, what I'm very aware of with these teenagers is that they have been very intentional about their lives. They're going to stand up here and they're going to say some things about being men and women. That we're going to honor that being men and women is a free gift from God, and that we're going to celebrate that. They're also going to identify that they have a responsibility, that they are on a journey. They may be men and women, they are not adults, because that is a journey that takes a community. It takes responsibility on their part, it takes responsibility on our part to help all of us on that journey to adulthood. What I started to do is I started to look at how many kids and how many teenagers we have in kind of intentional spiritual development programs. I don't like the word programs, but at least they're exploring their faith and what it means to be who they are. We have a lot of people under the age of 18 in those kind of groups. And what I realized, and this isn't an ought to or a should or a this is just an observation. We have more kids and teenagers doing that than we have adults doing that. It's not because there aren't opportunities, it's because our lives are full. But what I want to say to you is that I think our teenagers are teaching us. And I ask you today is, how are you on your journey to adulthood? You adults? How are you tending your soul? How are you being intentional about your life of faith? How is what we do in here on Sundays informing your Monday through Saturdays? One of my favorite stories was when I sat with my bishop, Falwell, who I've talked about a lot, and he said, Rob, I think you should be a priest. I'm with you on this, and a lot of discernment. And I looked at him, and I was about 25, maybe 26, and I looked at him, I said, but Bill, I don't like church that much. And he laughed, and he said, you will, because you love Monday through Saturday. And he was right. The biggest surprise of my ordination, of my life as a priest, is that I actually like Sunday morning now. Don't worry, I didn't want to get up either. I still don't always want to get up. But it's about how do we use our lives so that we can recover and reclaim this idea that the church isn't some dead relic, something that needs to be protected or defended, but rather, like Ted says so well, an idea worth sharing and spreading. Thanks be to God that we get second chances, third chances, fourth chances, 70 times chances, and that God is with us in this. I encourage you this day to remember that Jesus came so that we may have life and life abundantly. That is an idea we're sharing and spreading. Amen.